Pax Christi Nigerian Catholics. Now, many of the comments received under my previous video have focused on one issue, and the issue is the sentence or the punishment meted out on Father Anthony Odiong. Some viewers have said the punishment was excessive, others have called it ridiculous, and others have argued that a life sentence simply does not fit the crime. And honestly, I understand where many of us are coming from. For most of us, when we hear life imprisonment, our minds immediately go to murder, terrorism, armed robbery, kidnapping, or other crimes involving obvious physical violence. So when we hear that a Catholic priest received a life sentence, the reaction is naturally one of shock. However, before we ask whether a sentence was too harsh, we should ask a different question. Now, I understand that the question I'm about to ask will make some of us uncomfortable, but I'll ask it anyway. If the woman involved were your sister, would you still think the sentence was too harsh? If she were your daughter, would you still think the punishment was excessive? If she were your wife, your cousin, or someone very close to you, would your opinion remain exactly the same? I'm asking because justice often looks very different depending on where you stand. When the victim is a stranger, we tend to focus on the accused. When the victim is someone we love, we suddenly begin to understand the other side of the story. And that is why these conversations are difficult to make. Because many Catholics see the caller before they see the victim. And sometimes, without realizing it, we forget to ask about the people who may be hurt or harmed. What exactly was the jury punishing? Were they simply punishing a priest for committing these acts? Or did they believe something deeper had happened? Because the entire case revolved around allegations that a priest abused a position of trust and spiritual authority. And trust, brothers and sisters, is not a simple thing. Trust is a foundation, the foundation of every meaningful relationship. A child trusts his or her parents. A patient trusts his or her doctor. A citizen trusts his or her judge. And a Catholic often places immense trust in a priest. And that trust is sacred, which is why violations of that trust are taken seriously. The truth is that two things can be true at the same time. While we can pray for Father Anthony Odiong, while we can pray for those who testified against him, while we can hope for mercy, we can still believe in accountability. We can love the church, but we can insist that no priest is above the law. These positions are not contradictions. They are the very essence of why we are called Christians. One of the mistakes we sometimes make as Catholics is assuming that defending the church means defending every priest. And it is not. The church is not protected when wrongdoing is ignored. The church is protected when wrongdoing is confronted honestly. The church is protected when truth is valued more than reputation, and when victims know that they will be heard. The church is protected when priests understand that their sacred office does not place them above accountability. Another argument I heard repeated is, if this had happened in Nigeria, would anything have been done? Now, as uncomfortable as this question is, the reality is that many Nigerians do not have confidence in our institutions, whether they be church, government, law enforcement, or judicial institutions. Many people feel that power often creates protection, and that ordinary people frequently struggle to obtain justice. Now, whether that perception is fair or not, we must agree that it exists. And perceptions matter because trust is built through transparency. The more transparent an institution becomes, the more confidence people have in it. The less transparent it becomes, the more suspicion grows. And this is why accountability should never be feared. Accountability is not the enemy of the church. Accountability is the friend of credibility. Justice is not the enemy of the church. Justice, rather, is one of the foundations upon which the church's moral voice rests. If we expect politicians to be accountable, if we expect teachers to be accountable, judges to be accountable, then priests should be accountable as well. The Roman collar is not a shield against responsibility. An ordination is not immunity from consequences. Every allegation deserves investigation. Every accused person deserves fairness, and every victim deserves to be heard. Every case deserves to be examined carefully. Justice requires both truth and fairness, not one without the other. As we reflect on this entire situation, we keep coming back to one simple thought. The real issue is not whether Father Anthony Odiong is a priest. The real issue is whether we truly believe that everyone should be equal before the law. Because if we believe that principle, when it applies to politicians, businessmen, governors, or judges, then we must also be willing to apply it when it involves a priest. Even when it is painful, embarrassing, even when it makes us uncomfortable. That is what accountability means. And perhaps that is the question every single one of us should reflect upon. Not whether the accused wears a collar, whether he's respected, or whether he's popular, but whether our understanding of justice changes when the person standing before the court happens to be a priest. That, more than anything else, is the question this case forces us to confront. I hope you have learned a thing or two. Once again, let's continue to pray for our priests, pray for all our missionaries, and I will talk to you soon. God bless you.